The year was 2745, and humanity stood at the precipice of its greatest challenge. After centuries of exploration, invention, and sacrifice, the United Terran Alliance UTA had ascended to the stars, carving a place for itself among the galaxy's advanced civilizations. From the moment humanity first ventured into the cosmic void, it was clear that it was not alone. Alien species, some ancient and wise, others aggressive and territorial, had shaped the galaxy for eons. Though humanity had encountered both friends and foes, the promise of peaceful cooperation culminated in an invitation to join the Galactic Council, a governing body representing the most powerful and influential civilizations in the Milky Way. For the UTA, this was an unprecedented opportunity. Membership in the Council would grant Earth and its colonies a voice in shaping galactic policies and a chance to safeguard its interests. But not everyone in the UTA's Senate shared this optimism. "We are walking into a lion's den," Senator Evelyn Rowe stated during one of the heated debates leading up to the decision. A staunch realist, Rowe feared the Council's reputation for prioritizing the interests of elder species while exploiting younger civilizations like Earth. "They will never treat us as equals. This is not an alliance. It's an invitation to servitude." Her warnings were dismissed as paranoia. Humanity's leadership, led by President Elena Markov, believed the risks were worth taking. "This is our chance to prove ourselves," Markov argued. "We are no longer a backwater species struggling to survive. We've earned our seat at the table, and we will take it with dignity." With the majority of the Senate in agreement, the decision was made. The UTA would accept the Council's invitation. To represent humanity, they chose Ambassador Marcus Hale, a veteran diplomat known for his charisma, intellect, and steady hand under pressure. Hale had brokered peace between warring Earth factions during the Resource Wars and had navigated delicate treaties with neighboring alien civilizations. If anyone could earn humanity respect among the stars, it was him. Hale's arrival on Zender Prime, the Council's capital world, was a moment of profound significance. Zender Prime was a marvel of alien engineering, a planet where nature and technology blended seamlessly. Floating spires of translucent material glimmered above a sea of molten crystal, their surfaces etched with runes that pulsed faintly in the low gravity. Hundreds of species mingled in the Grand Plaza, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. For Hale, the experience was humbling. Humanity's place in the galaxy was still so small, its achievements dwarfed by the millennia of progress represented here. But it was also inspiring. "We belong here," he murmured to himself as he stepped onto the polished floor of the Galactic Chamber, a vast amphitheater designed to accommodate beings of every conceivable size and shape. The Council consisted of over 100 member species, but power rested firmly in the hands of three elder civilizations. 1. The Zaeltharn Collective, a race of energy-based entities with vast knowledge of advanced technology and psionics. 2. The Vorgak Imperium, a militaristic reptilian species whose empire spanned hundreds of systems. 3. The Thandari Union, an aquatic race renowned for their mastery of diplomacy and control over trade routes. From the moment Hale took the floor for his inaugural address, it was clear that humanity's inclusion was not universally welcomed. Whispers echoed through the chamber as he introduced himself, his words translated into countless languages. Many delegates regarded him with thinly veiled disdain, their body language ranging from disinterest to outright hostility. "Humans," a Vorgak delegate sneered, his serpentine eyes narrowing as Hale proposed equal trade rights for younger civilizations. "You've barely crawled out of your cradle, yet you dare speak of equality?" Hale, ever composed, responded with measured grace. "We may be young by your standards, but we have proven our worth through resilience, innovation, and a commitment to peace. Humanity does not seek to disrupt the balance of the galaxy. We seek partnership." His words were met with silence. The elder species viewed such proclamations as arrogance masquerading as idealism. To them, humanity was nothing more than an upstart species, undeserving of its newfound influence. Despite the cold reception, Hale pressed on. Over the weeks that followed, he attended countless meetings, advocating for fairer policies and striving to build alliances with sympathetic species. Slowly, he began to win over the younger members of the council, who saw humanity as a potential ally in their own struggles against the elder species' dominance. But his successes only deepened the resentment of the council's ruling powers. The Vorgak Imperium, in particular, viewed Hale's proposals as a direct threat to their military and economic supremacy. Behind closed doors, whispers of conspiracy began to circulate. The tipping point. The tension reached a breaking point when humanity was accused of violating galactic protocols. The charge, unauthorized expansion into a region of space deemed sacred by the Thandari Union. This was a blatant fabrication, as humanity had meticulously avoided entering restricted zones. Yet the evidence presented by the Thandari, a series of doctored sensor readings, seemed irrefutable. Hale protested vehemently, presenting counter-evidence that proved humanity's innocence. But the elder species had already made up their minds. The vote was swift and unanimous. Humanity was guilty. The punishment was unprecedented. Hale, as humanity's representative, was to be executed for his crimes. This decision, cloaked in the language of justice, was a thinly veiled message to all younger species. Defiance would not be tolerated. Ambassador Hale was taken into custody, his every movement broadcast across the galaxy. The UTA sent desperate pleas to the Council, demanding a fair trial, but they were ignored. 3 days later, on a public platform overlooking the molten seas of Zender Prime, Hale faced his execution. Bound and defiant, he stood tall as the flames ignited around him. His voice, steady even in the face of death, echoed across the galaxy. Humanity will not forget this. The flames consumed him, his final moments seared into the collective consciousness of 100 worlds. For the Galactic Council, this was a warning. For humanity, it was a declaration of war. The news of Hale's death sparked outrage across Earth and its colonies. Protests erupted in every major city, and the UTA Senate convened in an emergency session. President Markov, her voice trembling with controlled fury, addressed the nation. The Galactic Council believes that it can burn our representative alive and face no consequences. They see us as lesser beings, unworthy of dignity or justice. But they have underestimated humanity. We do not cower before tyranny. We rise against it. With those words, the course of history was set. The age of diplomacy was over. Humanity would no longer seek approval or acceptance from the elder species. Instead, it would teach them the meaning of fear. The flames that consumed Marcus Hale ignited a war that would reshape the galaxy. The flames that consumed Ambassador Marcus Hale left more than his body in ashes. They burned away humanity's hopes for peaceful coexistence with the galaxy's elder species. Across Earth and its colonies, outrage spread like wildfire. Hale's execution was broadcast across the galaxy, a message intended to intimidate humanity and other younger civilizations. Instead, it unified humanity in a singular, unshakable resolve: revenge. The United Terran Alliance, UTA, Senate convened in an emergency session at Olympus Station, Earth's orbital capital. Senators, governors, military leaders, and scientists filled the vast chamber, their expressions ranging from grief to fury. President Elena Markov, a seasoned leader whose military service during the resource wars had earned her universal respect, stood at the center of the room, her presence commanding attention. "They have burned our diplomat alive," she began, her voice cold and sharp. "They believe us to be weak, expendable, and unworthy of dignity. The Galactic Council has committed an act of war, not just against Marcus Hale, but against humanity itself." A wave of applause and shouts of approval erupted from the assembly, but Markov raised her hand for silence. "We face a choice," she continued. "Do we bow before their tyranny and accept our place as a subservient species? Or do we rise and show them that humanity will not be broken?" The response was unanimous. "We rise. thundered the chamber. The vote for war passed with near-universal approval, an unprecedented show of unity. Within hours, the UTA's fleets were mobilized, its industrial might redirected to mass-produce weapons of war. Humanity, once a species that sought peace among the stars, now prepared for total war. The mobilization, humanity's strength had always been its adaptability. While the Galactic Council's elder species had grown complacent in their technological superiority, humanity thrived on innovation and pragmatism. The UTA's military leaders, led by Admiral Noah Carter, quickly devised a plan to strike at the heart of the Galactic Council's power. "We don't have the numbers," Carter admitted during the initial strategy session, "but we don't need them. We'll fight smart. We'll hit where they're weakest and force them to react to us." The UTA's fleets were formidable, consisting of cutting-edge warships, AI-controlled drones, and experimental technologies that rivaled even the elder species' centuries-old designs. But it wasn't just technology that gave humanity an edge. It was its people. The memory of Hale's execution fueled every soldier, pilot, and engineer. They fought not for conquest, but for justice. One of the UTA's first acts of retaliation was Operation Amberfall, a daring assault on Zender Prime, the Galactic Council's capital world. The goal was not to conquer, but to send a message. Admiral Carter himself led the mission, commanding the Vanguard, Earth's flagship dreadnought. As the UTA fleet emerged from hyperspace above Zender Prime, they encountered minimal resistance. The elder species had underestimated humanity's willingness to retaliate so swiftly. The orbital bombardment that followed was precise and devastating. The Council's majestic spires, symbols of their authority, crumbled under sustained fire from humanity's railguns and plasma cannons. The destruction was broadcast across the galaxy, just as Hale's execution had been. Carter addressed the galaxy in a transmission that interrupted every network. "This is not an act of conquest. This is a reckoning. Humanity will not be intimidated. Let the elder species know. Their arrogance has consequences." Zender Prime burned for days, and the Council's ruling species were forced to retreat to their homeworlds to regroup. The message was clear. Humanity would not bow. The elder species strike back. The Galactic Council's elder species were stunned by the ferocity of humanity's response. For millennia, the elder species had ruled the galaxy with an iron grip, their power unchallenged. Yet humanity, a species they considered primitive and insignificant, had struck a blow that reverberated across the stars. The Zaeltharn Collective, the oldest and most advanced of the Council's members, viewed humanity's actions as an existential threat. The Collective's energy-based entities, capable of manipulating matter and energy on a molecular level, began deploying their dreadnoughts and planetary annihilation weapons. The Vorgak Imperium, enraged by the destruction of Zender Prime, unleashed its war fleets, eager to prove its martial dominance. Their ships, bristling with plasma cannons and shield-breaking torpedoes, swept through neutral territories, targeting human colonies on the galaxy's frontier. The Thandari Union, though reluctant to engage in open war, used its control of vital trade routes to impose a devastating blockade on Earth's core systems. Supplies of critical resources like tritium and antimatter dwindled, threatening to cripple humanity's war effort. For the first time, humanity faced the combined might of the elder species. The war that followed was brutal and unrelenting. Humanity's ingenuity. Despite the overwhelming odds, humanity refused to surrender. The UTA scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to develop countermeasures against the elder species' superior technology. Innovations came at a breakneck pace, spurred by the urgency of survival. One of humanity's most significant breakthroughs was the Erebus, a stealth dreadnought equipped with an experimental singularity weapon capable of collapsing entire fleets. The Erebus, commanded by Captain Sophia Reyes, became a symbol of humanity's resilience. In one of its first engagements, it ambushed a Vorgak fleet, destroying their flagship and scattering their forces. On the industrial front, Humanity's colonies worked around the clock to produce warships, drones, and orbital defenses. The UTA also began recruiting from the younger species within the Galactic Council. Many of these species had long suffered under the elder species' dominance and saw humanity's rebellion as their own opportunity for liberation. The Zaloran hive, an insectoid species known for its hive mind coordination, pledged its fleets to humanity's cause. The Arcturian Freehold, a coalition of merchant worlds, provided financial and logistical support, ensuring that humanity's supply lines remained operational despite the Thandari blockade. Together, humanity and its allies formed a coalition that challenged the elder species' dominance. The war was no longer just humanity's fight. It was a galaxy-wide uprising. The turning point came at the Battle of Eris IV, a human colony under siege by the Vorgak Imperium. The Vorgak fleet, numbering over 1,000 ships, vastly outnumbered the UTA's defenders. Yet Admiral Carter, commanding the vanguard, refused to retreat. Carter employed a daring strategy, using the colony's asteroid belt as a natural shield. UTA engineers retrofitted the asteroids with kinetic impactors, turning them into makeshift weapons. As the Vorgak fleet advanced, the asteroids were launched with pinpoint accuracy, crippling their capital ships. The vanguard then led a counterattack, forcing the Vorgak fleet into retreat. The victory at Eris IV was a turning point in the war, proving that humanity could stand against the elder species. It also inspired other younger civilizations to join the fight. The Galactic Council, once seen as invincible, began to fracture under the weight of rebellion, a galaxy united in war. By the end of the second year of the conflict, the war had engulfed the entire galaxy. The elder species, once united in their dominance, were now on the defensive. Humanity's coalition of younger species grew stronger with each victory, their shared struggle forging bonds that transcended borders and biology. But the war was far from over. The elder species, though weakened, still possessed vast resources and technology. And as humanity pushed deeper into their territory, it became clear that the final battles would be the bloodiest yet. For humanity, the fight was no longer just about revenge. It was about redefining the galaxy's future, a future where no species would ever again be burned alive for daring to dream of equality. The third year of the war marked the bloodiest chapter in the galaxy's history. Entire star systems became battlegrounds, their once thriving colonies reduced to ashes. The Galactic Council's elder species fought desperately to maintain their dominance, while humanity and its coalition of younger civilizations pushed forward with unyielding determination. For the United Terran Alliance, UTA, this was no longer a war of vengeance. It had become a war of liberation. The elder species' oppressive regimes, once seen as invincible, were crumbling under the weight of rebellion. Yet victory was far from guaranteed. The Galactic Council still controlled ancient weapons and technologies that humanity could barely comprehend. The battle for Proxima Novus. The turning point of the third year came with the battle for Proxima Novus, a strategic system that housed a critical Thandari energy nexus. The Thandari Union's mastery of subspace allowed them to control hyperspace lanes, crippling humanity's supply routes. If humanity could take Proxima Novus, they could break the Thandari stranglehold on galactic trade and logistics. Admiral Noah Carter and Captain Sophia Reyes of the Erebus devised a bold plan. Proxima Novus was heavily fortified, surrounded by orbital defense stations and fleets of Thandari warships. A direct assault would be suicidal. Instead, the UTA fleet would deploy a diversionary force to draw the Thandari out of position, allowing the Erebus and its stealth squadron to infiltrate the system and disable the energy nexus. The diversionary force, led by the Vanguard, engaged the Thandari fleet in a brutal battle. Plasma beams and railgun slugs lit up the void, while humanity's experimental weaponry tested the limits of the Thandari's defenses. Thousands of lives were lost in the conflict, but the distraction worked. The Erebus slipped through the chaos, its cloaking systems rendering it invisible to enemy sensors. Reyes and her crew navigated the ship through dense minefields and automated turrets, reaching the energy nexus at the heart of the system. With precise strikes, they disabled the nexus, plunging the Thandari's hyperspace network into disarray. As the Thandari scrambled to regain control, the UTA fleet launched a full-scale assault, destroying their remaining forces. The victory at Proxima Novus shattered the Thandari's monopoly on hyperspace travel and opened a way for humanity's coalition to strike deeper into enemy territory. Humanity's darker side. As the war dragged on, cracks began to show within humanity's coalition. While many species saw humanity as a beacon of hope, others began to question its methods. The UTA's willingness to employ devastating tactics, such as scorched earth campaigns and the use of experimental singularity weapons, caused unease among its allies. One of the most controversial moments came during the siege of Kaler 7, a Vorgak fortress world. The Vorgak had turned the planet into a bastion, its surface covered with fortifications and anti-orbital cannons. After months of fighting, humanity's forces grew desperate. In a move that shocked even their own commanders, the UTA deployed a planetary destabilizer, a weapon that triggered tectonic upheavals. Kaler 7 was obliterated. Millions of Vorgak soldiers and civilians perished in the cataclysm, their screams broadcast across the galaxy by the Vorgak propaganda network. While the destruction of Kaler 7 dealt a significant blow to the Vorgak Imperium, it also fueled anti-human sentiment among the galaxy's younger species. Are we fighting for liberation or domination? Asked Sin Kaldar, a Zaloran Hive diplomat and one of humanity's staunchest allies. If we become the monsters we oppose, what have we truly won? President Elena Markov addressed these concerns in a speech broadcast to the coalition. War is a crucible that tests the very soul of a civilization, she said. We must remember why we fight, not for conquest, but for freedom. If we lose sight of our humanity, then the Galactic Council has already won. Despite her words, the moral ambiguity of humanity's actions lingered, threatening to fracture the coalition. The fall of the Vorgak Imperium. The Vorgak Imperium, the most militaristic of the elder species, was the first to crumble. Their relentless aggression had overstretched their resources, leaving key systems vulnerable. Humanity's coalition capitalized on this weakness, launching coordinated strikes that dismantled the Vorgak war machine piece by piece. The final blow came at Vorgathar, the Imperium's capital world. Humanity's fleet, bolstered by Zaloran and Arcturian allies, launched a full-scale invasion. The battle was a brutal slog, with ground forces fighting street by street, building by building. Admiral Carter personally led the orbital assault, directing precision strikes that targeted the Vorgak's command infrastructure. By the end of the campaign, the once mighty Vorgak Imperium was reduced to scattered remnants, its leaders captured or executed. The fall of the Vorgak sent shockwaves through the galaxy. For the first time in millennia, one of the elder species had been defeated. The balance of power was shifting, and humanity stood at the forefront of this new order. The Zaeltharn's last stand. With the Vorgak defeated and the Thandari crippled, the Zaeltharn Collective became humanity's primary adversary. Unlike the Vorgak and Thandari, the Zaeltharn were not bound by physical limitations. Their energy-based forms made them nearly impossible to kill, and their technology operated on principles that defied human understanding. The Zaeltharn's last stand took place at Celestra, an ancient Dyson sphere that served as their stronghold. Humanity's coalition amassed its largest fleet yet, combining the forces of dozens of species. The battle for Celestra was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Zaeltharn unleashed weapons that bent time and space, tearing apart entire fleets in seconds. Humanity responded with overwhelming firepower, deploying the Erebus and its singularity cannon to devastating effect. Even so, the cost was staggering. Millions died, and entire fleets were lost. In the end, it was not humanity's weapons that won the battle, but its ingenuity. UTA scientists devised a plan to destabilize the Dyson sphere's core, forcing the Zaeltharn to abandon it or face annihilation. The plan succeeded, and the Zaeltharn retreated into the depths of space, their influence shattered. The dawn of a new era. With the elder species defeated, the Galactic Council was disbanded, its surviving members stripped of power. Humanity and its allies established a coalition of free species, a new governing body founded on the principles of equality and cooperation. President Markov, hailed as the architect of humanity's victory, spoke at the coalition's inaugural meeting. "This war has cost us dearly," she said. "But from the ashes of conflict, we have forged something greater. A galaxy where no species will ever again be burned alive for daring to dream of freedom." Humanity's role in the galaxy was forever changed. Once seen as an upstart species, it was now a leader among the stars. Yet the scars of war ran deep. Billions had died, and entire worlds lay in ruin. The question remained, could humanity and its allies build a future worthy of the sacrifices they had made? As the coalition began its work, humanity turned its gaze to the stars, determined to honor the legacy of Marcus Hale and all who had fallen. The war had proven one thing beyond doubt. Humanity was no longer just a species. It was a force to be reckoned with, a beacon of hope and a harbinger of change. The war had ended, but its echoes rippled across the galaxy. The coalition of free species had risen from the ashes of the Galactic Council, a testament to the will of the oppressed and the sacrifices of those who fought for liberation. Humanity stood at its heart, celebrated as both a savior and a destroyer. The elder species had been humbled, their empires shattered, but the galaxy's wounds ran deep, and in those wounds, shadows of conflict still lingered. Reconstruction and rebellion. The first task of the coalition was to rebuild. The war had left countless worlds in ruins, their ecosystems devastated and their populations displaced. Humanity, with its experience in post-conflict reconstruction, took the lead. Earth's industries, once geared toward war, shifted to creating prefabricated habitats, agricultural modules, and medical supplies. The colonies on Mars and Titan became hubs for humanitarian aid, sending resources across the galaxy. Yet reconstruction brought its own challenges. For every world that welcomed the coalition's aid, there was another that harbored resentment. Many younger species questioned humanity's dominance in the new order. To some, the coalition seemed less like a union of equals and more like a human-led empire. On Arlo 7, a mining world devastated by the war, protests erupted when UTA troops were stationed to oversee resource distribution. "We fought to free ourselves from the elder species," said one protest leader, "not to trade one master for another." Similar sentiments arose across the galaxy, threatening to fracture the coalition before it could solidify its foundation. President Elena Markov addressed these concerns directly. In a speech broadcast to every member species, she acknowledged the tension. "Humanity did not fight this war to become the new oppressor," she said. "The coalition must stand for all species, not just one. If we fail in this, then we dishonor the sacrifices of those who bled and died for our freedom." To demonstrate its commitment to equality, humanity relinquished several key positions within the coalition's leadership to non-human representatives. The first coalition council was chaired by Zin Kaldar, the Zaloran diplomat who had been one of humanity's strongest allies during the war. This gesture helped to ease tensions, though mistrust lingered in the shadows. The rise of the remnants. While the coalition worked to rebuild, the remnants of the elder species plotted their return. The Vorgak Imperium, though shattered, still possessed hidden fleets and loyal warlords scattered across the galaxy. These rogue factions launched guerrilla attacks on coalition supply lines, targeting vulnerable worlds in an attempt to sow chaos. The Zaeltharn Collective, driven to the edges of known space, remained a more enigmatic threat. Reports of Zaeltharn vessels appearing near unprotected colonies surfaced with alarming frequency. Survivors described encounters with glowing, incorporeal entities that absorbed energy and left devastation in their wake. The most organized resistance, however, came from the Thandari Restoration Front, a faction of Thandari elites who rejected the Coalition's authority. Using their expertise in hyperspace manipulation, they waged a campaign of terror, isolating entire systems and cutting off critical trade routes. Their leader, Grand Executor Eris Tylora, vowed to rebuild the Thandari Union and restore its supremacy. The Coalition struggled to respond. Its fleets, depleted from the war, were stretched thin across the galaxy. Humanity once again bore the brunt of the fighting, deploying the Erebus and its stealth squadrons to track and eliminate rogue factions. But the cost was high. Captain Sophia Reyes, who had become a symbol of humanity's resilience, faced her greatest challenge during the Battle of Zarthian Abyss, where a Thandari ambush nearly destroyed the Erebus. Though the ship survived, Reyes was gravely injured, forcing her to relinquish command. Her departure marked the end of an era, leaving humanity searching for new heroes. The ethical dilemma. As the Coalition fought to maintain order, a darker question began to emerge. How far would humanity go to secure the fragile peace? During the war, humanity had developed Project Obsidian, an experimental AI network designed to predict and preempt enemy movements. With the war over, some within the UTA proposed using Obsidian to monitor the galaxy for potential threats. The AI could analyze vast amounts of data, identifying patterns that might signal rebellion or rogue activity. But the idea sparked intense debate. Critics argued that such surveillance would violate the freedoms the Coalition claimed to uphold. "We cannot claim to fight for liberty while building tools of oppression," said Zinkaldar during a heated council session. Despite the opposition, the UTA implemented a limited version of Project Obsidian, justifying it as a necessary measure for security. The decision deepened divisions within the Coalition, with some species accusing humanity of overreach. Yet Obsidian proved effective, uncovering a Vorgak plot to assassinate key Coalition leaders and preventing what could have been a devastating blow to the fragile alliance. The ghosts of the war. For humanity, the psychological scars of the war were profound. Soldiers who had fought on the front lines struggled to reintegrate into civilian life. Entire generations had grown up knowing only conflict, their identities shaped by the violence and loss. Marcus Hale, whose death had ignited the war, became a martyr and symbol of humanity's resilience. Statues and memorials to him were erected on Earth and its colonies, but his legacy was not without controversy. As more details of the war emerged, some questioned whether his death had been manipulated to justify humanity's actions. On Earth, a growing pacifist movement called for an end to militarization and a renewed focus on diplomacy. The movement's leader, Dr. Nadia Renshaw, delivered a speech at the Galactic Concordance Summit that captured the galaxy's attention. "We cannot build a future on the foundations of war," she said. "The blood of billions stains our hands. If we are to lead, let it be through compassion, not conquest." Renshaw's message resonated with many, but it also drew criticism from hardliners who believed that only strength could maintain peace. The tension between these factions reflected the broader struggle within humanity's soul, a battle between its darker instincts and its higher aspirations. A glimpse of hope. Despite the challenges, the Coalition achieved remarkable milestones. On the devastated world of Veltronis, a joint effort between human engineers and Arcturian architects restored the planet's ecosystems, turning it into a beacon of renewal. On Kaler's remnant, a fragment of the Vorgak Imperium, former enemies worked together to rebuild their society under Coalition guidance. One of the Coalition's most significant achievements was the creation of the Celestial Accord, a treaty that established universal rights for all sentient species. The Accord banned the use of planet-destroying weapons and mandated the demilitarization of certain regions, ensuring that no species could wield unchecked power again. As humanity looked to the future, it faced a galaxy still teetering on the edge of chaos. The elder species were beaten but not broken. The younger species were united but deeply divided. And humanity itself stood at a crossroads, its destiny shaped by the choices it would make in the years to come. But amidst the uncertainty, one truth remained. Humanity had forever changed the galaxy. It had proven that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, the spark of hope could ignite a revolution. The question was whether that spark would light the way to a brighter future, or consume the galaxy in fire once more.